I welcome all in this book review session. I am presenting a review, or I am rather introducing you to one very nice concept given by Daniel Quinn. And the name of the book is Ishmael, Ishmael. It's a very interesting book in two terms. First thing is the way it has been presented is excellent. I have never seen any book written in such a beautiful manner and such a building way. Another important is the more importantly is the concept, and most of it we know, and yet many people, if even if they know, they are in denial, and people who know it, who accept it, also accept the fact that we cannot do anything about it. I'll come to that point in 2 minutes' time. But the story starts with a newspaper advertisement saying that teacher wants a pupil should have an earnest desire to save the world. And one person really gets excited and motivated to see this teacher because he also, since his young age, had a desire to save this world. So obviously, when you say save the world, it means you are accepting the fact that the world is getting destroyed. And that's where this person comes into play. Now, the entire story goes like this person is the narrator. So he goes through the entire all chapters as I went here, I did this, I did that, like a narrator. So here also in my review, I will become that nameless narrator, and now onwards I'll refer narrator as I. So influenced by that advertisement, I go to the uh, place where it was a very second class shopping center in which there was a small office, and I go to register myself to this teacher. To my astonishment, I find that this teacher is a fully grown gorilla. And then the entire conversation between me and this gorilla. Initially, I am so frightened, and then I am reluctant to accept this gorilla as my teacher. But he's such a wise gorilla. And when it goes into chapters after chapters, in very few days, it goes for many days. In very few days, I accept him as a wise teacher. There is a plate behind my teacher. The name of my teacher is Ishmael, and the plate writes, "With man gone, will there be hope for gorilla?" And that is how it begins. First, Ishmael tells me his story, how he came into this office, where he was born somewhere in Africa, jungles of Africa, and then he came here, how he was there in Menegres, how he was there in some captivities, and how he was there in some gentleman's private residence as his pet. So he tells his entire life story to me. And then I ask him, what about what you are going to teach me to save the world? He said, my expertise is captivity because he has spent his entire life in captivity. So he tells me, my subject is captivity. Then I say, what has that got to do with saving the world? Then he says, it's about you. You are under captivity. And I'm astonished. What are you talking about? And then he explains that you are in the captivity of the civilization. Now, see, the entire conversation is in kind of a Socrates arguments. So this Socratic argument, I liked it so much. Actually, as a teacher, we do that in our classrooms also, putting up questions, throwing up statements, giving hints, and getting the answers out of the students. This is what exactly Ishmael did to me, and uh, he I discovered everything that he wanted to tell me myself. So he says a man is in captivity of the civilization, and even if you want, you can't come out of it, and slowly you are destroying this world. So first question he asked me to explore, and that is, how do you come to be here the way you are? Like he told his story, how he came. Now he's asking me how I came here. So I, as a human being. So he gives some terms to our civilization, that we are civilized people. Then there are other people. Still, some people are there, and they are called primitive people. And this is how man used to live for 3 million years and continues to do so. Some communities do live like that. They were termed as primitives. So here we agree to a terminology that we, us civilization, are takers and they are leavers. So take it or leave it based on that. And then the premise of the story is very interesting, that man was not happy the way a primitive man was living. At some point of time, maybe around 10,000 years ago, he decides that enough is enough. And he thought that world belongs to man, and I am here. That's the story we have enacted for ourselves since last 10,000 years. And Ishmael tells me, ask me a few questions, and I have to accept that yes, we think world is ours, because we say the world belongs to us, our environment, we say our planet, our oceans, our space, our solar system, our wildlife. So we general terminology, it's so normal for us to talk like that. Obviously means that we think this world is ours. In As the story progresses, I tell him how these things came to be. So over about more than 5 billion years ago, the planets came into existence, then Earth cooled down, and that story which we all of us know. And then the microscopic life, some 3.5 billion years ago, appeared in the oceans, and then it evolved gradually into the larger marine forms, the aquatic forms, and then the terrestrial forms, and then the amphibians, from amphibians to terrestrial forms, and then from those to the higher forms like plants and animals, the mammals, and then us. So at one point I said, then finally the man appears, and that is very catches me. That when you say finally the man appears, means you are enacting a story that's it. The gods wanted man to be here, and he is here, and that's final. So all of these exercises was done by our Creator for evolving of man. Once man is here, evolution is over. That's the story. To enact means to make that story come true, and that is how we are living. That's what he wanted to tell me 10,000 years ago. When man decides, no, it's enough is enough, I'm not going to live at the mercy of the world, then I'm going to create a space for myself, a place for myself, and that is where the settlements begin. So that is where, so once a settlement is there, then nomadic life, lever's life means hunting, gathering. So you have to move from place to place in search of food. When you settle down, then you need your food here. Now, importantly, Ishmael has not told me, but I am telling you here that this is where the many of our problems started, continues to do so. We want everything here, the most exotic food, fruits, and everything globally available, everything we want it here. So if you are in a Western country, you want Indian food. If you are in India, you want Western food. So I want it here. That started with the settlement. That I won't go and gather my food. I want it here. That is how the story started. So that's where we wanted agriculture. When agriculture came into play, there was division of work. Division of work, technology, trade, commerce, maths, science, literacy. This is how the entire story of the civilization started. That is how we, in our discussion, we reveal that. And then, but there was a problem here. Man wanted, because man saw a chaos in the God's made world. There is no guarantee of any food next day. Although all species are assured that nobody is going to sleep hungry. If he sleeps hungry for a day, next day is going to get his food. But we don't want that. We want that assurance. We want to see, in short, we wanted to set this world into order. And that is how the thing started, that we want to convert this world into a paradise. We started dominating, we started conquering the world. And slowly we went into war with the world and other species and everybody. We could not make it a paradise. We wanted to do something, we could not achieve it. And then at one point of time, me and Ishmael come down to a conclusion that man has a flaw. That we are doing something we are not capable of doing. God played three tricks with humans. First one, this world he did not put in the center of the universe as we think. World is not the center of men evolved like any other species. We didn't want it that. It's not acceptable, but we somehow accept it. Okay, all species evolved and we also evolved just like if we are special, we should have a special evolution. That was the point. Third and most important thing is God did not exempt anybody, any species from the laws that govern the life. This we do not know, and still we do not know. We think these rules apply to all species on this planet and not to us. And that's how we live. So we are in a free fall because we don't obey to the rules. Here Ishmael gives a very good analogy of aerodynamics. He says there are laws, Newton's law of gravity. Whether you accept it, whether you defy it, whether you deny it, the law remains law, and gravity does its work. So are all other laws. One of them is law of aerodynamics. When we started to fly like birds, we did not succeed. But when we understood laws of aerodynamics, that is where we were actually able to fly. Now that was not defying the law of gravity. The law of aerodynamics enables us to have an air cushion that makes the flight possible. Now we want to defy the law and yet fly. Is a similar situation where a man just like big wings of the bird and tries to fly. So he jumps from a very, very tall mountain and then there is a free fall. Eventually he is going to crash land. But in between period, he will be under illusion that he is flying. And this is because we have designed our way and we believe that this is the only way life is possible. We have eliminated all levers from this, almost all levers from this planet. We are eliminating species by species. So we believe in one way of life. That is how everybody should live. And this is the right way of living. Now this right way of living is working so well now. Just like that man who has jumped from the mountain is flying in air, actually not knowing that he is freely falling. So we are in a free fall and we think we are in flight. Little harder paddling will pick us up. Because we are seeing the ground coming closer to us. So we know that we are going to fall. But then little bit, because everything is fine so far. So 10,000 years till date, this flight is going on without any crash. And therefore we think we are in flight. The fact is we are in fall. Further, we discuss so many things. He comes down to laws of life. And that is where he makes me think and makes me accept that yes, man broke the rules. He says whenever a species breaks the rule, in the history of life, no species has ever broken some rules. And these rules are rules of life. Man was first to break these rules. For example, they don't hunt down their competitors. No species does. Man did. Any species don't eliminate its competitors for food or its competitor for the food for the other species. Man did. They don't deny others the access to food. Man did. And this is where the law of life was broken. Law of life promotes diversity. If all species break law, or even if one species breaks law, the entire system will collapse. This is how it is designed. And then the myth that the world belongs to us makes us to believe that these laws do not apply us. And that is how we have been living. Now, with the agriculture and destroying other species, other competitors, our species will flourish. But any species would not flourish beyond a certain point, because then the food is not available. The competition is there. We defied that as well by eliminating all those that competed for our food also. One step beyond that. In other words, what we mean to say is that we are destroying all other species for expanding agriculture, because we have too many people to feed. Now, this book was in 1992. He talks about 4 to 5 billion people. Today, we are talking about more than 7 billion people. So, we are going beyond agriculture. We are expanding our agriculture and animal husbandry and farming, this and that, from every possible source, and biotechnology and everything. We are trying to consume more and more from the nature in order to feed these people. What is happening now? When a population is well fed, the population will rise. So our efforts are not to there is no natural way. What this discussion in Ismail is not including, that part is life expectancy. We are 7.5 billion, close to 7.5 billion now. And our life expectancy, which was less than 40, is now more than 70 and still going on. So we are doing two things. We are making a man to live longer, and we are also making more and more food for him. Our efforts are such that whosoever is born on the planet will not die. We are already talking about death is optional. Now this happens. That means everybody who is born is not dying or dies late, and more people are born. That is population explosion. So there are so many things. Even the religion also comes into play. The old writings, all these references Ishmael gives, and I discover that okay, all these things are going on like that. Ultimately, in the end, like every one of us knows, that these are facts. We are the last generation, in fact, who can protect this world, who can save this world from destruction. And if asked to me or to you or to anyone, we say, I know it's required, but I don't think it will happen. Because we are inside a captivity. We are in the cage and we do not know the bars. Where are the bars? Where to cut it open and break it open. Ultimately, in this story, in the end, Ishmael dies. In our last conversation, I tell him that I know living as per the laws of life is a necessity, but I don't think we can do it. And Ishmael says, perhaps you are right, but I hope you will do it. And then next day he dies. When this narrator collects his goods and other furniture and everything from there, that board which was there, that with man gone, is there a hope for gorilla? On the back side, after gorilla is dead, it is written, with gorilla gone, will there be hope for man? Thank you.